Hello, welcome back to The Young Voter. Today we're going to talk about Christine O'Donnell once again. I know she's not exactly the most interesting candidate to talk about, but she is funny to talk about, especially in this recent article that Gawker published. And this anonymous account from a man, a 25-year-old man, that says that Christine O'Donnell showed up at his door 3 years ago, inebriated on Halloween, in a ladybug costume, and slept with him after having met him maybe twice, and have spent the night with him. Now, this is interesting because Christine O'Donnell is big on the whole no premarital sex, I'm a chaste woman. Her comments in the 90s against masturbation and sex were rather inflammatory. She told the mayor that she, by herself, would prevent the entire country from having sex unless people were married, and etc., etc. So these comments this story would be interesting and perhaps would discredit O'Donnell if it were not from an anonymous source. Now, the man has not gone on the record and come out publicly, so we really don't know where this story is coming from. And of course, this article has been criticized not only by the O'Donnell campaign, but also by the Coons campaign, because it obviously is from an anonymous source. So the veracity of this story has not been proven. I mean, there's one picture of Christine O'Donnell laughing with a ladybug costume on. Okay, that doesn't really prove that she slept with this guy. I mean, I could phone in to a magazine and dream up an entire story on Harry Reid, and then they publish the story about how Harry Reid, abused me or something. I mean, anybody could basically come up with a story and make it up and send it to a magazine, and if they publish it without checking it, well, okay, but you lose journalistic credibility at that point. So, I mean, Gawker's an online site, etc. But still, it's getting traction. I mean, unless generally that's libel, unless you can prove something is true. If you publish slander, I mean, that's slander. I mean, you're soiling Christine O'Donnell's name, and basically showing her to be a hypocrite when you really don't have any evidence. And I'm not a big fan of Christine O'Donnell or her ideas, but I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not saying these are lies, but they're unsubstantiated. And the website that published them, Gawker, doesn't really say that they have the proof of the truth of these stories. And so again, Christine O'Donnell's criticized it. This story has been criticized by the New York Times, by the O'Donnell campaign, by the Coons campaign, etc. So obviously, stories by anonymous sources should not be published. It's journalistic. It's one of the pillars of journalism. I mean, you have to make sure your sources are truthful. And again, that's hard, but that's why you shouldn't publish a story from an anonymous mail about someone who's running for the Senate in the state of Delaware. I mean, unless you can prove, or unless you have this person comes out forward and publicly says, this is me, not just some anonymous person, said so-and-so. I mean, that's, okay, well, I could be an anonymous person. I could call in an anonymous tip, and I could be like, Harry Reid, molested me the other day. Okay, well, that's not okay, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, we'll publish it right now. What? I mean, come on, people, some journalistic integrity here. I mean, you're supposed to have some level of credibility. Now, Gawker's not exactly a serious magazine, but, I mean, they're publishing this as a real story. So it would be nice if they had some proof, something to back it up other than this guy's statements and an interesting picture of Christine O'Donnell laughing with a butterfly costume on. I mean, that doesn't really, the ladybug costume on, that doesn't prove anything. But, of course, Gawker defended their article by saying, quote, Christine O'Donnell is seeking federal office based in part on her self-generated and carefully tended image as a sexually chaste woman. She lies about who she is. She tells that lie in service of an attempt to impose her private sexual values on her fellow citizens, and she's running for Senate. We thought information documenting that lie, that O'Donnell does not live a chaste life, as she defines the word, and in fact hops into bed naked drunk with men that she's just met, was of interest to our readers. Now, that's all well and good, I mean, to defend your statement, but you're still not addressing the fact whether this story is true or not. I mean, all you're saying is that you caught her in contradiction, trying to impose her sexual, values on other people, etc., etc. And I agree. I mean, I personally don't agree with Christine O'Donnell's views. But I'm not going to call her a hypocrite unless I have evidence. Now, the link to the article that Gawker published is available in the description of this video, and you can check it out and see, okay, it's an interesting story. I mean, seems a little, wishful thinking, but oh wow, how useful that such a story would come out right now when she's running for Senate. I mean, it would. I mean, she was really not known up until that point, but right now, 2 weeks before the election, I don't know. I mean, she is gaining status in the United States, in the media. She's talked about a lot, etc., as if her race was close. No, it's not. But it's funny because she really is not going to win. So, I mean, she receives a lot of press, but people are trying to discredit her now. And the story comes out. It's published by it's published based on an anonymous account. So, read the story, but take it with a grain of salt. I mean, there was an anonymous woman who accused Rand Paul of kidnapping her and forcing her to prostrate herself before a false idol and worship it, which Jack Conway ran in an ad to attack Rand Paul. Now, this is dealing with the Senate race in Kentucky. But, again, those are not substantiated claims. Unless someone is willing to go on record publicly stating their name and putting their name behind this story, I don't think these stories should be taken all that seriously. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't personally take it all that seriously. I mean, it's an anonymous story, okay? It's an anonymous tip. There's no evidence other than this man's word for it, and a picture that could have been shot anywhere. So, I don't know. I really don't believe the story, but I think generally people shouldn't believe the story until there's more evidence, and I'm not really seeing any more evidence at the moment. But check out the story, think about, what it says, and decide for yourself. But this was just a funny piece of news today, which I thought I'd bring to you. So make sure you get out and vote next Tuesday. I mean, we'll talk before then, but certainly it's the last week of the campaign this weekend, and if you can, go out and volunteer for your respective candidates, the people that you support. Make sure you get involved in the process. Make sure all your neighbors and friends vote, because it's very important. Yeah, it's a big election season, and there are many interesting characters, and Christine O'Donnell being one of the prime of them. One of the most interesting characters. She's top among them for some of the interesting things she said, some of the things that she's been accused of, etc., etc. But, read the article. Tell me what you think. All right. Thank you again for listening to The Young Butter.